The Raptors lose a tough one to the Minnesota Timberwolves, 128-126. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Sherman Hamilton, Jack Armstrong, and Jevohn Shepherd. Jack, this was a bit demoralizing if you're a Raptors fan. The Timberwolves go on an 18-4 run in the last 8 minutes or so of the game. How did you see this one slip away from the Raptors' hands?
Yeah, this is a tough one because you're playing a team that played a back-to-back, and you had the opportunity to be there last night. And that's a really difficult game to cough up. I mean, and it's not like the Raptors ran their starters into the ground. I mean, they used their bench. It was just one of those things where they really struggled guarding the three. Russell was great, D'Angelo Russell, when it came down to it. Edwards made some big shots. And I also thought there were a few possessions there where the Raptors, offensively, the ball stuck a little bit. There wasn't the same flow and fluidity in terms of how they ran their offense. And it allowed Minnesota to get a few runouts and change the pace of the game. So to me, it was the inability to guard on the perimeter, and that's been a problem. We've seen that. And just in crucial moments, not executing and getting the kind of play and the shot that you might want at a big moment.
Sherman, what stuck out to you?
A lot of what Jack said, but also, offensively, they really in that fourth quarter just couldn't find anything. They shot around 31% from the floor in the fourth quarter. And, we've seen games where the Raptors have struggled to score, but when they fix it on the defensive side, so to speak, i.e. make it difficult for the other team to score, that's when they're able to hang around, especially on the road. And in this game, they had no answers for what Minnesota was doing. D'Angelo Russell, as Jack said, he was phenomenal in the fourth quarter. He knocked down all his threes, 16 points in that fourth quarter. And I really thought that, Anthony Edwards he's coming along as a young player, developing player, figuring some things out. He squared down Pascal one time, put a few moves on him, stepped back and knocked down a three-point shot, which was a big shot for them. And they just continued to make plays. But offensively, Pascal struggled in that fourth quarter. Credit Anthony Williams for the job he did on him, one-on-one defensively. That young team was hungry. Minnesota, they lost that game in Denver the night before in a similar way where the way the Raptors lost it. They allowed Denver to come down and chase them down. They struggled to score. Rouse scored 9-0 in the last couple minutes of the game. This time they flipped the script and were able to learn from that mistake and get the job done against the Raptors.
To your point, that's exactly what, I seen in that fourth quarter there. It was like they completely went away from the first three quarters of basketball and the things that were working right. It was they crumbled in a sense. And the offense, Jack, to your point as well, was stagnant. And then the quality of the shots, were tough, right? And as much as you shot the ball well, that stuff is contagious, right? You start taking bad shots and, it gets to me basketball. Okay, I'm going to fix the problem. And you start to see a lot of that. Guys weren't making shots. You give Minnesota a chance, right? And it wasn't just the fourth quarter because, as well as they played for three quarters and as well as they shot the ball, that Minnesota team was still hanging around, right? And I thought that was the most dangerous thing throughout this game because they're at home, right? And they're coming off a tough loss yesterday in the last 2 minutes of a game, right? You learn from that. And you mentioned it being a hungry team. So you give a guy like D'Angelo Russell, he gets going 16 points in the fourth quarter, right? And the Raptors shoot the ball horribly in the fourth quarter. It stems from that difficult shots and just not quality. And then that starts to steamroll and a domino effect. So you when you go back and look at this film as a coaching staff, as players, you kind of kick yourself, right? And you've also got to have somebody's got to step up on this team and say, losing games this way is unacceptable, right? You need that alpha. You need somebody that's going to take charge, be lead. You kind of need that guy that you're going to fear in your locker room and hold guys accountable. And I think that's where we're kind of seeing that, right? Somebody should have stepped up and taken control of this team in this fourth quarter.
It's interesting when we're talking a lot about offense, but you look at the game against Milwaukee and you look at tonight's game, a big part of the problem is perimeter defense in terms of defending the three. And if you look at going into the game tonight, you're playing a team on a back-to-back. They don't have Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. You're at full strength. You're going into this game on the road as a favorite. And we all know this because we've all done it in terms of working the NCAA tournament and you guys playing in the NCAA, and me coaching in the NCAA. The three ball is the great equalizer. So if you're the better team and you're favored, the one thing you can't let them do is make a lot of threes. And if you look at the difference in this game, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have a stat sheet in front of me. I think the Timberwolves made 3 more threes than the Raptors did. And to me, when you're playing a team like that, like that's their salvation. That's their way to win.
Right.
And if and unfortunately, and even a team like Milwaukee, they're so perimeter oriented, and without Giannis going downhill, and that's their way to beat you. They got to outshoot you from the three. And the Raptors shot the ball well from three tonight, but the other team had more made threes.
So, Sherman, is it a matter of closing out harder, or specifically, what are you seeing that's giving so many teams, the ability to make more threes than they should be against a good defensive team?
Well, you can't move as fast as the ball moves on the pass. And once you get beat and broke down off the dribble, as we see many times, once that ball starts popping, you can hustle out, you can close hands high, you can run people off the three-point line all you want. If the offensive team moves the basketball properly, you will never catch up to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing from the Raptors is they get broken down off the dribble and they are trying to catch up. We see the effort, but you're just not going to catch up to a good ball movement team. And Minnesota, I thought in the fourth quarter, did a very good job of forcing the Raptors to chase off of the dribble penetration. And that has been their Achilles heel all season long, stopping the ball, at least trying to wall it off so it doesn't get deep penetration into their paint and force rotations, which exposes them on the defensive glass as well. So it's not an effort thing. These guys play hard, but sometimes the execution is lacking at times. And when it starts at the point of attack and you get broken down, it's just too much. It's overwhelming for you defensively to consistently try to chase the ball to get to shooters, especially when they're making shots. It takes the wind out of your sails.
Yeah. Jevohn, despite all these struggles and all this, they had chances. OG had a couple of looks that were really good late, didn't make them. And then at the end there, Scotty on the rebound, I'm not sure if he's fouled. When you look at that, what do you think? Because Fred got caught with the rip through foul, a few seconds before that. How do you make sense of that last play?
One, OG got a really good shot, right? A clean shot off, shot fake, escape, dribble to his left, and a clean look. But, there's going to be a lot of conversation on what happened that very last play. Is it a foul? Who was it out on? But the reality is you can't rely on that whistle and put, the game at the mercy of the officials or your opponent, especially when you've had a convincing lead early in this game, right? So, is that play going to be a topic of conversation? Absolutely. But should it have come down to that? No, because when you're on the road, you're playing, especially when you're playing young, hungry teams, you got to win those games by plus 10, right? Not to put yourself in a position where it comes down to one possession, it comes down to one call. So I think where that play is concerned, right, we can't even really have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. So Jack, how would you describe Scotty's play tonight? Because he was terrific.
I know we said it the other day. I was on the show with Sherman and Leo on Monday after the game in New York, and I just think he's playing more forcefully, with more grit, with more mojo, with more savvy. I mean, the skill is there. I mean, the vision, the skill is all there, but he's playing with a little jam now, with a little nastiness to him, and he's got pep in his step now. He's going after people. And to me, that's it. I mean, there ain't much. There's not much strategy. We can talk about, how they use him in the screen, the mid screen and roll, and all that stuff. And he's a facilitator, yada yada yada. He's just saying, "Screw this. I'm balling. I'm coming after you." And that's the difference. I thought early in the year he was kind of cruising and playing on his talent. Now he ain't doing that no more. He's coming after you.
Mm-hmm. And Sherman, we got our first look at Wieskamp tonight. Was
Jay
good.
Weezy.
Making threes, loving it. Is this enough to, after the second 10-day, they got to make a decision, right? Do we sign him for the rest of the season or not? What are you thinking here?
And you think Wieskamp's only job is to make it difficult for the Raptors to cut him. And I thought this was a step in the right direction. He took the shots that were available, he made them, but he clearly likes to play outside the three-point line, because when he tried to score inside the three-point line, he got a shot blocked, he got the ball stolen. But I like what he brings. He's a confident shooter, and you all have been around true shooters, whether the form is what you like or not. But guys who can shoot the basketball, you just know. And you see him release the ball, you can see the guy can shoot it. So I hope for his sake that he's able to stick around and the Raptors see enough in him. But he definitely put a good foot forward in this game, and he helped them in terms of their offensive three-point shooting tonight.
Yeah.
To that point too, like he came out and shot the ball, did what he was supposed to. But there was a couple possessions where he sat down in his stance and moved his feet. Now, I don't know if that's a guy trying to earn himself the rest of the season, or if that's really him.
Doesn't matter. He did it, right?
It doesn't matter. For right now, he sat down and locked up, moved his feet.
That's
probably
right.
could have used a bit of that, and late in the fourth as well. But there's showing dimensions there, and again, right, there's a void, right? There's a void that he feels, and just being a guy that can come in and knock down shots. Sometimes we negate how tough that is. Like, this is his first action with this group, and automatically can see shooting that three ball is his default.
Mm-hmm.
Just one quick point. Quick point. You look at his plus minus tonight, and you look at how the ball moved when he was on the floor, and you look at the spacing, because you got to guard him, right? And I thought the offense flowed, and they played a lot of zone when he was out there. And we're talking about having breakdowns off the bounce. I think this is a team, as they go forward, if they continue to struggle keeping the ball in front of them, they got to find different ways to play more zone, and different looks in the zone, whatever it is. But when you have a lot of matchups that you can't win, that might be something to consider.
The only better thing than what Wieskamp did in this game is his new nickname, Jay Weezy.
Jay Weezy.
It's on, Jay Weezy.
Hey, Randy, I'm not gonna steal the show, but I got one question for Jack.
Yeah.
Right? How? Because Coach Beeline already told me you were a nut job on the sideline, right? So in a game like this, who would you have been? How crazy would you have been on that sideline?
Tonight?
I already know a couple secrets, so I'm going to let you tell or I'm going to tell.
I would have been pretty crazy about all the dribble penetration we were giving up. So yeah, I would have, but I'd be a little different crazy because you coach your pro players, so you can't get after them like college players. That's for sure. But no, there'd be some pretty fiery exchanges about guys keeping the ball in front of them. So that would be that, and execution down the stretch, absolutely. But I'm retired now. I don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. It's
Jevohn, what do you say? What do you say then, as a coach here, after a loss like this, going into a tough weekend at home?
Well, one, I think we've got to address turnovers, right? And this was uncharacteristic of this team. But again, like I said before, it's just really understanding some of the shots. We can't play selfish basketball. We have to play selfless basketball and understand for 3 quarters, 3-4 quarters, 3.5 quarters, that was great production for us, right? And we've got to understand, extract the good things. And again, like with everything going on, everybody being evaluated right now, the trade deadline coming up and all these rumors and everything like that, guys probably have garbage bags in their locker, just thinking it's going to be my day and ready to pack their stuff. But you've got to continue to play at a high level. You got to continue to produce at a high level, whether it's for personal reasons, selfish reasons, because that's always going to be the case. Everybody has a personal agenda, but how do we put it together? And if you're doing it selfishly, like we've seen, this last fourth quarter, where just the one-on-one play went out of control, this tough shots, it's not going to be conducive for your own individual career or a team, right? And winning solves so much, so we've got to find a way to reel it back in and just be the team that we can beat, right? Get out and, like we've seen in the first 3 quarters, play in transition, turn the team over, share the ball. And I love what Fred was doing in the pick and roll, just picking the team apart. Scotty playing in that mid pick and roll. You got a lot of good things out of it. Now we've got to see that, recognize that, and identify that, and just stick to it, right? And that's, again, the big part is just having somebody step up as a leader and say, we're going in this direction. Whether everybody's going right or whether everybody's going left, we're all going the same way.
I would honestly get my video team to clip a few clips. One would be the offense in the first quarter and the first half, and just contrast that against the fourth quarter and just challenge them and say, which team do we want to be?
Yeah.
When we move the basketball, this is what happens. When we don't, this is what happens. So that's the one. And then I would clip their defense, and I would say, if we want to really alleviate pressure off of our offense, well, we can't let this happen. These breakdowns off the dribble, these multiple penetration plays, you can't have that happen, because these are fixable and correctable things. In the heat of a game, as we all know, sometimes things get lost on the floor in the hustle and bustle of the plays, but they know they have the ability to do the right things on offense and on defense. And I just challenge them to get back to those principles and continue to believe in those principles.
All right, guys, great stuff. Going to stop it there. Next game for the Raptors is Saturday, back at home against the Boston Celtics. Tip-off goes at 5 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget, after the game, come on by Real Sports, be a part of the show as we live stream on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.